Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Freelance Friday podcast. Let's talk about how to keep your clients happy. And I think this is a topic that sometimes we maybe avoid or don't really want to think too hard about because it's a lot of work. It involves kind of humbling yourself. But the thing is, it can have such a huge financial reward for you, in addition to just being the right thing to do. I found a stat that says acquiring a new customer can cost 5 to 25 times more than retaining an existing customer. Thought that was pretty fascinating. And there is also an article from HBR that talks about this kind of referral effect, the contagion effect of it. It says that referred customers not only buy more, but also refer 30 to 57% more new customers than others. So if I tell my aunt about a service, she's more likely to tell her friend about that same service because that's how she discovered it. So the point is, people are only going to be referring, people are only going to be telling their friends if they're happy, if you're doing a good job. And this is really such a I don't even want to say secret because it's kind of obvious, but it's such a big part of running a freelance business. So let's talk about how to keep your clients happy. And if you've got any tips, be sure to drop them in the comments if you're listening on Spotify or watching on YouTube. I'm also hosting a class if you are looking to become a booked out social media manager in the year ahead. So you can check out the show notes and description box for your invite to that. I would love to have you there. We'll talk more about this stuff and marketing and so much more. Okay, so the first thing, onboarding. Really keeping clients happy, keeping yourself happy, preventing scope creep. So many of those issues can be prevented by having a proper onboarding process. So for me, that means number one, talking about things during the discovery call that maybe might seem like I'm jumping ahead too much, but I like to just get it all out there. I ask on the discovery call what their budget is. I ask on the discovery call what communication styles they prefer. I ask them what they didn't like about working with other social media managers or other service providers in the past so that I know not to do those same things. Or if I do those things and that's a part of my business practice, that we're not a good fit. So I have a very detailed conversation on the discovery call. And I have a video where I walk through a mock discovery call because, of course, it's done smoother than what I just described, right? I'm not just like, so how much do you want to pay me? Obviously there is a way to do it that still feels professional and caring. But I do just think all of those things are important to get ahead of and not be shy about. So that's a part of onboarding. Then once they say, yes, I want to work with you, it's all about having those systems built out to send the proposal, to collect payment, to have a contract signed, to have them do the next steps, to schedule their first meeting. Like all of that for me is done through a client management system. And I use one called HoneyBook. It is really an all-in-one kind of back-end business system for you where you can go through and automate all of that stuff. You can templatize all of that stuff. So you can send your contracts, you can sign the contracts, collect payment, all of the things, and even send through an onboarding questionnaire, which is another huge piece of onboarding for me, is really getting down to the nitty gritty with them. You probably talked about some of this stuff on your discovery call, like, hey, who are your competitors? Or how do you want me to contact you if something comes up? But having it documented in an onboarding questionnaire is really, really helpful. So I ask all of those questions that I just mentioned. I ask about brand inspiration and their top selling products or services. Like I really just want to have a go-to place where I can have like a crash course on their brand and on this client. And that if anyone on my team needs that same crash course, that's available for them too. I have a template and a sample of the questionnaire, the actual questionnaire that I use in my product, the social media management toolbox. So you can check that out. I'll have that linked down below and we'll talk more about it on the webinar, the social media management class that I'm hosting as well. So those are both linked for you. But yeah, I use HoneyBook to automate all of that stuff. Now, another thing that I think is really important once you're actually off to the races and you're working with your client is having regular FaceTime with your client. Back in my earlier freelance days, I tried to hide from my clients for some reason. I think it was some kind of imposter syndrome. Like I thought the more that they saw me, the more likely I was to get fired for some reason. And it's actually the opposite. I have found that the more within reason, obviously, the more that I see a client, the more that I become a part of their day to day, a part of their life, a part of their business, the more they see the value that I provide. And also the more they see me as a human. And they're less likely to just treat me like a line item in the budget, and more likely to say, well, Latasha does a really good job, or, well, maybe we don't need her for social media management anymore, but we do need somebody to do our emails. Could we see if Latasha's available? They're more likely to connect to you, the person, not just you, the resource, you, the service provider. So, what this looks like in action depends on what you do, obviously, but for social media management, I think it's a good idea to have a monthly call on the calendar with your client and use this time to go over reports, which we'll talk about in a second because this is another huge piece. But go over reports, talk about what's coming up in their business for the month ahead, and also just like chit chat a little bit. Now, obviously, we don't need to be best friends with our clients. We don't need to be inappropriate or anything like that. But again, just having that regular FaceTime, getting to know them a little bit. Even if I don't have a ton of business updates to share, I like to still keep that meeting on the calendar just so we can kind of connect and remember why it is that we work together in the first place, right? So I like to put this monthly meeting on the calendar as soon as we start working together. So it's like, okay, every first Monday or first Tuesday or whatever that looks like for everybody. So it is there on the calendar because one of the big problems that I see a lot of my students and friends say is like, well, I can't get my client to meet with me. They never have time. Well, if you put that on the calendar from the beginning and you explain to them, this is my process. Like, this is what I need as a service provider. They kind of don't have a choice. Of course, they could still cancel and of course, they could still fight you on it, but that might be what I would consider like a red flag. And I don't know if I would want to work with a client who didn't have 30 minutes once a month to talk about their social media or whatever service I was providing them. So, something to think about. And this can be on Zoom, obviously. If you're local, honestly, I don't really have a ton of local clients, but I would love the opportunity to go have a cup of coffee once a month with a client, and just really become a part of their business within reason. Today's episode is sponsored by Metricool, which is a social media scheduling tool, analytics platform. It is what I personally use in my business and with my clients. And specifically when it comes to client communication, it helps out so much. One of my favorite features is their content approval process. And you can use my code Latasha at the link in the show notes to try out any of their pro plans free for 30 days. You seriously need this if you're a social media manager in particular and you are looking to communicate with your clients. If you work with multiple people, you know that content approvals can be a game of back and forth if you don't have an organized workflow. And with a Metricool Advanced or Enterprise plan, you can invite team members or clients to your Metricool dashboard and assign them different roles and even create your own custom roles. Now, when you schedule content, there's an option to send for review where you can then assign a member or a client to review your content before it's posted. If it's approved, it'll be scheduled and ready to be published. And if it's rejected, the reviewer can leave a note and the post will be sent back for editing. This process creates a smooth communication system between your team members and your clients to make sure content is approved in a timely manner and ready to be published. So if you want to try this feature, be sure to use my code Latasha at the link down in the show notes to try out Metricool, any of their premium plans for free for 30 days. Thanks to Metricool for sponsoring this episode. Like I said, analytics and really everything. I think the third thing to think about is kind of over communicating. What I always like to remind people is this is what we live and breathe. Social media management, email marketing, websites, whatever it is that you do. We live and breathe that world. We all know what a follower means, what engagement means, what a website click means, what Google Analytics is. But your client probably doesn't. It's just like when I go to the doctor and they tell me that I have like some condition or a certain part of my body is injured. And I'm like, I've never heard of that bone in my body before, right? It's not my job to really know what a meniscus is. Can't even say a meniscus. I don't even know what that is. Is that a muscle or a bone? Whatever. Not my job to really know that. My doctor needs to explain that to me. And you need to do the same thing for your clients. So over communicate, or at least that's kind of what it feels like you're doing sometimes, is, being really clear about, okay, I pulled this report for you. We're at our monthly meeting. I pulled this report. I'm not just going to give you the report. I'm not just going to screen share the report and be like, here's how we did. No, I'm going to really break it down and add my commentary to that report and say, hey, we got this many impressions. What that means is your content was seen over 100,000 times. That's amazing because one of our big goals is, awareness, and we want to get more people in the door and blah, 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 blah. And I'm going to explain, I'm going to contextualize it for people, just like my doctor needs to do the same thing for me. Over communicating also, I think, comes into play when we think about like deadlines or workload. You don't want to be micromanaged. This isn't a 9 to 5 job where you have somebody hovering over you in your little cubicle, making sure that you're doing work 24/7 or watching your Skype status, right? But if you are doing something that you're really proud of, or working on a big project, or had a big breakthrough, or had a post perform really well, share that. They don't know what they don't know. And oftentimes, again, you are kind of a line item in the budget. You are just a service provider that they know they need. They're not going back and like looking at everything that you're doing. And even if they are, they're not seeing those metrics. They're not seeing the work that was put in. So nobody can advocate for yourself like you can and share the value that goes into it. So if I have a post that performs really well, I might send over a quick note and just say, hey, great news. Like that new content idea we talked about, it looks like it's really working. We're already seeing this many clicks or this many impressions, and just like give a little surprise and delight throughout the day. It means deadlines. If I get sick or even think I'm getting sick, I might just preemptively send an email and say, hey, just giving you a heads up. I'm a little sniffly. I might be out of the office tomorrow. And so I might need to push back that content calendar till Monday. 9 times out of 10, your client does not care, right? They're like, whatever. But it feels a lot better to know that you had that moment of respect and concern for their business to tell them, rather than being hard to find, disappearing, and then be like, oh yeah, by the way, I was sick the other day. That's why this is late. So it's all about just positioning it in a way that shows that you care for their business, that you take this seriously, that you're timely, all the things, which is point number 4, adhere to deadlines. I am very proud to say that outside of times where I was like truly ill, unwell, which typically has been communicated to my client, I haven't really been late on a project that I can recall. Please don't come out of the woodwork, clients, and be like, yeah, actually, no, I'm pretty sure, that is something that I take very seriously because time is money. Time really is money. I hate to say it, but if you're late on a project, that might mean that your client is late on sharing a promotion, which might mean a missed opportunity for hundreds or thousands of dollars, right? I take it very seriously. When I say I'm going to do something, I do it. And if I can't, I say why, and I give them notice ahead of time. And again, even if it isn't money, if it's just kind of an arbitrary deadline, if they're like, whatever, we don't care, we actually weren't going to use that until next week, it just shows respect for your client. It shows that you're taking them seriously. It shows that you are not just willy-nilly about it. And so be on time. This is something, as someone who has hired many freelancers, maybe I'm a stickler, maybe I'm old school, maybe I need to get over it. But like if somebody's late repeatedly, even if they do an amazing job, I probably am not going to continue working with them because I base my deadlines off of their deadlines, and it just shows that they are not reliable, and also that they're not taking it seriously, and that they kind of are treating me as an afterthought. So I've worked with some amazing video editors, for example, that were late and straight up told me I'm working on other projects that I'm prioritizing over yours. And I'm like, okay, cool. Makes me feel like crap. That doesn't make me want to work with somebody. So just be on time and communicate if you're not going to be on time. That will be so appreciated. Ask for feedback is my next tip. Ask for feedback formally and informally. Again, this is a great use case for that monthly meeting. Just saying, hey, how do you think things are going so far? Especially in the early days of the relationship, maybe month 1, month 2. Say, we've been working together for a month, we've been working together for 2 months. Is there anything that you'd like to see in these reports moving forward? Or is there anything throughout the month that, you want me to try, or however you want to phrase it, but just getting a little pulse check, as I like to say, of where they're at and giving them those opportunities to explain. Because if you don't ask for it, they're going to bottle it up and save it for that negative Google review or Facebook review, or that, you're fired type of email. So I like to just have plenty of little touch points throughout the relationship that give them an open invitation to give me feedback. My Pilates studio, for example, after every single class, they send an email asking for a review, which I think is really great because if I were to have a concern, that would be a great moment for me to reply to the email and say, hey, actually, this. Or if I had a really good class, it'd be a good opportunity for me to do that. You might not want to send it after every single month, but you can kind of decide on your pacing. And again, it can be informal, just asking on the call, but it can also be formally, sending through a form midway through your contract and just saying, hey, do you have any concerns that you want to bring up? Anything that you'd like to change as we head into the second half of our contract? All that is very important. With that said, my next tip is that you've got to drop the defensiveness. And this is me talking to me. This is something that I have had to learn over the years is that business is business. It's not a personal attack if somebody has something that they're not happy with, and that I'm not always right. And I know it's hard sometimes, especially in creative careers. And especially when you're working for yourself, because we get so like used to calling all the shots and having all the power and making all the decisions and knowing this industry so well and being like, no, you need to do this type of post. You're not listening to me. But you really do have to learn how to let that go and take your clients seriously, but in a way, take it a little less seriously too. Like, this is not your business. This is not your baby. If somebody would rather have a green background and I think it looks better blue, I'm just going to make it green, unless it is like breaking a rule. If there is an actual reason why it should be green and not blue, then I'm going to communicate that. But if it's just a preference thing, I'm just gonna be like, whatever, here's why I prefer it, but sure, we'll go with what you want. Obviously, there's a fine line here because if your client is just abusing you essentially and being like, oh my gosh, you're not doing a good job. Well, that is not you being defensive. That is you wanting to be communicated with like a human and have professional communication. And I have had to tell clients, I can't keep working with you unless you speak to me, professionally. So that is something that you may have to do. But unless that is the case, I think it is just important to be able to see things from their perspective and kind of take a bird's eye view, take a bird's eye look at things and say, you know what? Maybe this is something that I haven't tried, or maybe they're right. Maybe I haven't been giving their creative enough attention or whatever the critique may be. So see things from their perspective. Something that's really helped me with this is actually hiring other freelancers. I've hired dozens of freelancers over the years, and it really makes me see how I like to be treated as a customer. I actually had a incident happen, not with a freelancer, but with a service provider where I was sick and I had to cancel. I had to reschedule a very expensive appointment that I had. And I saw two different sides of it because my Pilates instructor was like, they actually said, thank you for not coming to the studio sick and getting us sick. And obviously we're caring, hope you feel better, right? That encourages my loyalty. That makes me be like, this is the type of studio I want to work with. They're not penalizing me for getting sick. This other service that I paid for really made me feel terrible about it. They were like, well, are you sure you can't just come in? And then when I went in on the rescheduled call, the rescheduled appointment, they kept like kind of ribbing me about it. They're like, oh yeah, well, glad you could make it today. And it was a terrible feeling. And again, this is a service that I pay a lot of money for. So that made me really reconsider how I was treating people who maybe cancel coaching calls, right? Sometimes it can get a little in my feelings about it. I'm like, come on, our time is all valuable. Why are people canceling? But if they genuinely are sick and I just bring myself back to how terrible I felt sitting in my car, being like, I can't go to this appointment, I can't make it, like that makes me have more empathy now for my clients and, be more flexible when it comes to real, actual excuses. So just see things from their perspective. Think about how you like to be treated, golden rule, all that good stuff. And then lastly, something that you can think about doing is rewarding loyalty. Now, this can take a lot of different forms. It can be a traditional affiliate program, right? If you offer like courses or anything like that, you can think about creating an affiliate program to encourage people to share it with their friends. But I also think this comes into play when we think about just like making exceptions. I might technically have had to pay a cancellation fee for missing a class because I was sick, but because I've been a client for so long, it was waived. Or my rate might go up for certain things. But if I've been working with a service provider for years, they might say, you know what, you're getting kept in at the original rate. We love working with you. You've brought us so much other business, that kind of thing. So this is all kind of on a case by case basis for me. But generally, I raise my rates every year or so. But if I've been working with a client for 3 years, 5 years, I might not give them that annual rate change. It might be every couple years or only as I see fit. You have to do those numbers yourself and decide what is appropriate and what makes sense. But, again, going back to the stat, acquiring a new customer can cost 5 to 25 times more. What's the trade off there? If a client leaves me because they've worked with me for 5 years and I just want an extra $100 a month, they leave me and now I have to go out and prospect and send emails and try to, sell and pitch to a new client. Like, what's the trade-off there? It's also probably a lot easier to work with a client that you've been working with for years because you know their business like the back of your hand. So do keep that in mind. Obviously, don't get stepped on, don't get walked all over. Don't feel like you have to give discounts or anything like that. But I do think it feels nice. We're all humans. Just think about how you feel as a human. It feels nice being like, ooh, I'm getting this special rate, or I am kind of a VIP member of this hair salon, Pilates studio, marketing agency, whatever. Like everybody likes to feel special. It could also just mean like sending little gifts, if they get a new office, sending them a little office warming gift, little surprise and delight moments like that. They don't feel like a lot. They don't have to cost a lot, but they can, again, really just show that you are committed to them, that you feel like a part of their team, and that you want to see them thrive and grow and be happy and wonderful and all the things. So, those are my tips on how to keep your clients happy. Let me know in the comments if you have any advice that you want to share. And thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. I'll talk to you in my next one. Bye.